MRAPs? Constitutionalism is fundamental to being an American. To hate the Constitution and those who support it means you are a traitor to this country. He said, this is spitting in the face of all the heroes who fought, bled, and died so that we might live free. And the question is, why aren't you a constitutionalist, officer? Why don't you believe in the rule of law? Why don't you believe the Constitution means what it says? And of course, we've seen this over and over again as Mikhail goes down. He points out that many, many times we've seen this in Indiana. We saw returning military veterans labeled as domestic threats by Homeland Security in 2009. We saw the MIAC report as well, the Fusion Center report that was leaked to InfoWars back in 2009, labeling people who supported Ron Paul as being someone who was an extremist group, somebody they should be wary of. If you had a bumper sticker on your car for Ron Paul or for Baldwin, that was somebody that the police should basically take the safety off of their gun when they pull you over, because they've been told that you might get out of the car shooting. And of course, we also saw this back in New Hampshire. We had a Army veteran who, I don't know if it was Army or the Marines, but anyway, he was a high-ranking colonel or lieutenant colonel. He came in here and talked to us actually afterwards, but he questioned this. He said, why do they need to be this heavily armed? We weren't that heavily armed when we were fighting a war abroad. That's where this is coming from. Now, we also have an article from the AP that's up on Drudge Report. Texas weighs allowing open carry of handguns. They're pointing out that Texas, you may not believe it, but Texas is one of the few states with an outright ban on open carry of handguns. And they point to the fact that the governor-elect Greg Abbott said on the first day after his election last month, he said, if open carry is good enough for Massachusetts, it's good enough for the state of Texas. And of course, they're talking about they have one quote from a lady who's 63-year-old rancher in Blanco, that's out in the hill country here. She carries a handgun in her purse, she says, for protection, but she'd like to carry it on her side as she does when she's on her ranch. She points out in 1.5 seconds, a man can run 25 feet with a knife in his hand and stab you before you can get your gun out if it's concealed. But I think the most interesting quote out of this article was the one from the representative, Jonathan Strickland, Republican from Bedford, Texas. Although most of the open carry bills that have been filed for the upcoming season would still require a license, he would eliminate the licensing requirement. And here's the quote from that representative. He said, the idea is that we're going to return to our Second Amendment rights. There's a difference between a right and a privilege. He said, I can't imagine what citizens would do if they had to take a class or pay a fee to use their First Amendment rights. Think about that. Do you understand? First Amendment rights are there. You don't have to pay a fee. You don't have to take a class. If we have Second Amendment rights, if we have the right to protect ourselves from criminals acting individually or from criminals acting collectively together called a government, then that is not a privilege. It becomes a privilege if you have to take a class or if you have to pay a fee. Now, of course, we've already seen our tyrannical government kind of ruminate over the idea that maybe the First Amendment should be a privilege and not a fundamental right, talking about licensing journalists. We even talked about it last week, how in Japan, Prime Minister Abe has just put in a prison sentence of 10 years if somebody in government leaks information as a whistleblower, and the journalist who reports it gets a 5-year sentence. Now, here's the interesting thing. He says we have to do this so we can share information with our U.S. ally. See, that pressure is coming from America to do those kinds of prison sentences for whistleblowers, to put 10 years and the government employee in for 10 years and the reporter in for 5 years. But we've also had our own government talking about how perhaps they need to license journalists. And of course, you're not a real journalist unless you work for a mainstream media organization or have a license or have some kind of a degree. That simply isn't true. We've talked about that many times. And we also have another on an article about abortion. We have an abortion doctor that's arrested after not killing babies. We're going to talk about that right after we come back. That's a story from New American. He was actually telling women that they were pregnant so he could give them expensive drugs, which themselves are very, very dangerous. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You better make it, make some, your favorite disguise.
This hour brought to you by CatieArmor.com, your most affordable option for body armor. Packages starting at $195. Go now to CatieArmor.com and get yours. That's CATI Armor.com. Come and take it.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Managing your business and customers isn't easy, huh? SnapForce customer relationship software may be just what you need. SnapForce CRM is a software solution that helps you manage everything important about your customers, from sales to marketing to service and support. All of your customer information is right there at your fingertips for easy access. It's time to take control of your business in a snap. Get your free trial at snapforce.com. That's SNAPFORCE.com. Snapforce.com.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big name companies, has a weakness: the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it. And that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
What disaster is so powerful, it unleashes a chain of mass pandemics, economic meltdowns, and violent food riots, all at the same time? NASA has already set the countdown timer, and right now the 21st century apocalypse is less than 13 months away. Former CIA Director James Woolsey says 2/3 of U.S. population could perish. In a matter of seconds, the world as we know it will cease to exist. The world's economy will be wiped out. Mass riots will follow. Ancient diseases will reemerge. How will you shield yourself and your loved ones from this upcoming apocalypse? Go to darkestdays.info to find out proven methods of protecting yourself, your loved ones, and even your entire community when this worst-case scenario unravels. That's darkestdays.info. darkestdays.info. Go there before this life-saving information becomes unavailable to the large public. Go to darkestdays.info now.
If you have candida overgrowth, just taking antifungal agents or starving yourself of sweets does not address the cause. Candida overgrowth is the result of a toxic, damaged, acidic, low oxygen, and inflamed tissue environment. The goal should be to remove the toxins, heal damaged tissues, restore healthy pH, eliminate inflammation, and feed beneficial bacteria. Previous usage of antibiotics or steroids or exposure to mercury or other toxins can damage many cells in the GI tract and body that make you prone to candida overgrowth. Removing toxins and healing tissues should be the goal. One World Whey is a whey protein food that supports detoxification, repair of tissues, and elimination of inflammation, healthy pH, and growth of beneficial bacteria. One World Whey is duly reformulated to be higher in protein and lower in carbohydrate. We believe One World Whey is an excellent food to support your efforts to create a healthy internal body environment. Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this Monday, December 15th, 2014. We're getting really close to 2015, aren't we? We've only got a couple of weeks left. I was talking about the abortion doctor just before we went to break, and I want to get back to that story. But before I do, real quickly, we have X2, Survival Shield X2, at InfoWarsLife.com. This is our first sale ever on X2. It's 17% off, free shipping. It was $29.99. Now it's $24.99. But without the free shipping, you would have paid $38. So this is a sale that's going to run only through next Monday. And, of course, if you get it within the next 2 days, Christmas delivery is guaranteed. Now, of course, CDC states that iodine deficiency is one of the 4 major deficiency diseases in the world. Fortunately, it is the easiest to correct. And of course, with Survival Shield X2, it's approximately 50% stronger than our original Survival Shield formulation. Created from salt solutions found more than 7,000 feet below the Earth's surface. That Survival Shield X2 on sale right now. As I pointed out, with the free shipping and the discount, you would have paid $38 to get it. Now it's on sale for $24.99 through next Monday. Now, just before the break, we were talking about this story from the New American. It's an Oklahoma abortion doctor who was arrested for not killing babies. Interestingly enough, what his scam was to examine women, to tell them that they were pregnant, then to give them RU-486 at $600, let's see, what was the amount here? It was over $600 that they were charged in each one of these cases. Now, keep in mind, they point out that RU-486, even when it's used as approved by the FDA to induce abortion, is known to cause hemorrhaging. In some cases, so much so that they need to have medical intervention. Yet, he's willing to do this to women to turn a quick buck. And of course, he's got a lot of them. They point out in the article that he's got a $3.8 million home in Oklahoma City. And this is somebody, it's not his first rodeo. He's been in trouble with the law many times. He was disciplined for botching an abortion in 1989. He admitted in 1992 to dumping and burning 55 aborted babies near Shawnee, Oklahoma. No charges were filed then, but he was arrested in 1993 after a former patient accused him of molestation. He was charged with 1 count each of forcible sexual battery, and 2 other women came forward and testified against him. But, of course, this guy is still walking free, isn't he? You know, it's interesting to see who gets immunity and who gets it for what. Now, we pointed out that one of Obama's executive orders a few weeks ago was to give amnesty to any corporations that went to Ebola countries and happened to bring it back into America and infect other people. He gave them legal immunity from being sued. Now he's doing the same thing for big pharmaceutical companies. He's given them legal immunity from future lawsuits over the new Ebola vaccine. Of course, they're rushing this to market. They don't want to wait for tests that they would normally do to check for the safety of something, not even doing any tests for the efficacy of it. But of course, they're getting all the groundwork laid to roll this out in a massive way, perhaps requiring people to get it once they introduce and bring back a lot of Ebola. If they were to do that, they could require medical workers, for starters, to get this vaccine. And of course, if it has any side effects, these big pharmaceutical companies are not going to be held responsible. Obama has given them immunity. But of course, if it makes things worse, if it spreads the disease, if it is totally ineffective, you won't have any legal recourse against these companies that are in bed with the administration. And talking about immunity, Dick Cheney says, "I'd do it again in a minute." And of course, he's talking about torture. And that's exactly why he and others need to go to jail, because they will do it again. And they'll do it worse again. And they'll be more open about it again. We've seen the same thing going on with the NSA. We had the leaks from Snowden that verified what we'd been talking about for over a decade, for a couple of decades, how they were spying on us, how they were collecting our records. We've had whistleblowers. 10 years ago, we had William Binney and others who resigned, and the government came after those whistleblowers, and they were telling us at the time what was happening. Nobody paid any attention until the Snowden leaks. Once they paid attention to the Snowden leaks, now we've got our Congress passing a law that essentially says, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and do it, essentially giving the NSA immunity to spy on us. So they give Cheney and the CIA essentially immunity to torture people because they don't get punished. That's the message. We have the police who have immunity from police brutality. We have the NSA that has immunity against surveillance. Do you see a problem here? Do you see a pattern? We have laid the foundation and presumed to make it legal for absolute tyranny in America. Stay with us. We're going to be right back talking about economics and oil, and we're going to have Paul Craig Roberts joining us at the next hour. Stay with us.
We're on the march.